Right, today is D-Day for the big CBR. I'm going to take her down and put her in for an MOT, and fingers crossed that she passes. I've got her outside warming up the now. There's a wee light rain, but I'm going to take you a ride with me on the bike. When I come back, I'm going to sit down and do a cost analysis, and I'm going to prove to you that you don't need to spend a fortune to get yourself a really good super bike for really very little money. So stick around and we'll get that done. That's me, I've left the bike in. Sandy, the guy who does the MOTs, is not in yet. He'll give me a phone when he comes in, and hopefully he'll be able to do it today. Usually it's not a problem. I usually just drop a bike off in the morning and go back in the evening for it, so we'll see. Anyhow, shanks his pony till I get home. Okay, so let's look at cost. How much did it cost to get this bike and the condition it's in? First of all, run through the brief of the bike. I'd also like your opinion on whether this was done the way you would have done it, or maybe done it a different way, because there is a big difference between restoring a bike and recommissioning a bike. Now, what we've done here is recommission it. We haven't restored it. A couple of reasons for that. One is that in the UK anyway, it doesn't warrant it. You know, it would cost, I would estimate, to restore a bike like that properly, you're talking about £5,000, something like that, and many hours of work. And these bikes don't sell for anything like that money, not at the moment. And in saying that, some people are actually restoring them. They are putting the time and effort in, which I think is a good thing. But again, it's not viable as far as I'm concerned to do it with this particular bike. Our brief was to get it usable, to get it safe, dependable, and make it a nice bike to ride, just a bike you could take anywhere. What I can say is, on the very brief run down to the MOT station, which was literally a couple of minutes, as you saw, is that it feels great. It pulls like a train. The brakes feel good. I mean, they're old tech. They're not going to be super R1 heart-stopping brakes, but you ride accordingly. It feels really good. It feels right. The bike feels planted on the road. Again, hard to assess it in a couple of minutes run down the road. But sometimes you just get a good feeling about a bike. It just feels right. It feels sound. It feels together. And I would say that's the case with that one. It feels together. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate here in this video is that if you want a bike like that, it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. And if it's a project you want to take on, then all the better, because then you know what's done to the bike, and it's your satisfaction that you have it. Now, an old bike like this, it doesn't have traction control, it doesn't have ABS, it doesn't have rider modes, it doesn't have canvas systems and feedback loops and all the things I don't like anyway. So it's nice and simple. You're the guy in control of the throttle and the rear tyre. So Personally, that's the type of bike I like. I mean, I do admire the modern bikes. I like them, but I prefer the old tech stuff. Anyway, I'm going to run through the costs, and I'll briefly compare what that would be like recommissioning versus restoration. So the bike was free. If you want to know the story of the bike and follow the recommissioning process, then just go through the playlist and you'll see, I think there's 4 videos, something like that. You'll go through and you'll see the work that was done. I've got a list here of what I actually spent on the bike, and it's something I don't do very often because generally I frighten myself when I do that. Like my XT500, my CB404, some of the little puddle jumper C90s and monkey bikes and things. I mean, even those small bikes, it's easy to spend north of £3,000 in a restoration. So there is a big difference between restoring a bike and recommissioning a bike. And saying that, there's no reason why you can't have a good, sound, solid, dependable machine for not a lot of money. Okay, so let's start with the costs. The rear disc on that bike was shot. That was one of the things I knew I had to replace. So I got a wavy disc to match the front ones. It was £44. Fair enough. The sprockets, I changed the sprockets because the front one didn't look that great. I actually had a chain in stock, so chain and sprocket kit I think cost me about £40. Well, sorry, the sprockets cost me about £40, but I had the chain there, so that might have cost, say, £80, £100 or something for a chain and sprocket kit for that specific bike. One of the things that I never mentioned in the last video was that when we were tuning the carbs, it wasn't running right, it was cutting out, and I had suspected the fuel relay a couple of weeks ago. I think Bob did as well, and I ordered one for China for £7. But when we were testing it, and Bob likes to test everything, I mean, he tests everything to the nth degree. I mean, fair enough, he likes to know what the problem is. So we tested it, and sure enough, when we plugged in the new relay, away it went. One of the things to note about the pumps on these bikes is that they don't come on when you turn the ignition on. They're powered from the coil, so they don't actually start to pump fuel until you're cranking the engine. And the way you can tell is if you look at the actual fuel filter, you'll see it filling up when you turn the key, and if it's not filling up, then you suspect a problem. But easy sorted, and that was that one. The piston that I fired away, which by the way was never found, and I pulled that garage apart. I don't know where it's went to. I think it's either went up into the roof somewhere, or it's went out the door and down the street. I just never found it. So that was £17, my fault. The clocks, the reason I replaced two reasons I replaced the clocks. One was the spiral side was cracking up. There was a lot of cracking on the screen. The other was the tackle was a bit hesitant. It wasn't working right, and I suspected it was the tackle itself. So I bought a second-hand set on eBay for £28, and they worked perfectly. Okay, there's a mileage discrepancy, but you know, hey ho. The footrests, I changed them. They were just generic ones. They were 13 quid. And I also changed the rubbers. I got genuine Honda ones for the vibration and the foot hangers. So that was that done. The seal kit for the brakes, I think it was about £13 for the seal kit for the brakes. I had gotten new pads with the bike, so it just made sense to change all the seals and all the bellows and all the rubbers just to make sure they were all tip top. So again, buttons for that. The clutch lever was broken, 7 quid for a clutch lever, £7. Fixings. Now, it's hard to quantify this, but because I had fixings there, I have boxes of fairing fixings and stuff like that. So I'm guessing about £10 for fixings. I never showed it on the video, but actually I made up some little brackets because it's really the bodywork that lets bikes of that age down. The plastics, the lugs break and stuff like that. So I'd made some little brackets and eliminated the need for cable ties, which really annoys me when they're there. But anyhow, I made it in such a way, it's not factory, it's not perfect, but it's better than the way it was. So I'm guessing about £10 for those fixings. Fluids, the front forks, the coolant, the engine oil and the brake fluid. Now I buy that stuff in bulk. I have loads of it there. I'm guessing about £35 for all of that. The MOT, which is in just now, waiting to get done, will be £30, and we'll wait on the result of that. And that's it. That's it. That comes. I can't think of anything else. It might be the odd little thing, a battery. But again, I had a battery installed. I had a new battery there. It needed a battery, and I put it in. It's not a battery I was going to use in anything else, so I'm not counting that as a cost really. So the grand total comes to £246. I'll put that in dollars and euros somewhere on the screen so that you can see it, but it's not a lot of money. And I suppose it's to demonstrate that you can have a good bike, a really good bike, without spending a fortune on it. Some key things to note though is that you have to make sure that everything's right on it. You have to make sure it's safe. Now this bike, when I stripped it, it was evident that there had been maintenance done on it. The wheels had been powder coated, and I suspect at the time when the wheels had been powder coated, there was new bearings fitted through all the wheels because they were silky smooth and I could see the stamp on them. They looked new. There was no point in knocking them out and putting bearings in there just for the sake of it. If they weren't, or any indication of roughness at all, I would have changed all the bearings. Normally I would do that anyway, but I didn't see the point. They feel smooth, there's no play, no wear. They look like new actually. So that was fine. The bike just feels good now. You know, it feels solid, it feels right. Okay, so the value of the bike. First of all, we don't work on bikes, and I don't work on bikes for money. It's not the point. I do it primarily for my mental health. I might make a video on that actually. I love working on bikes. It's my part-time passion. I love riding bikes. I love everything about them. But you do have to consider costs at times. You know, you have to be realistic. The value of the bike is not that high. I mean, you tell me what the value. Let me know in the comments what you think the bike is worth. The other question is, am I going to keep the bike? And I don't think I am going to keep it. I think I'm going to pass it on to somebody who's going to get good use out of it. So if you're interested in it, send me a private message and we can talk about it. Okay, that's her. Past the MOT, no problem at all. Some nice comments from the mechanics down there. The young boys were well impressed with it. Thought it was a lovely bike for its age. So there you go. Delighted with that.